Narayana, 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 Narayana. Continuing with Webu Sayādaw's selected discourses. So we listed out in the previous video clip the 7 points he always repeated. By the way, Webu Sayādaw authorized and rather recognized and encouraged and authorized Webu Ken, who of course had his original teacher, who was also a disciple of Ledi Sayadaw. Ledi is a small forest area in Burma, wherein the monk known as Ledi Sayadaw in the 1886 to 1925 or so, 30 maybe, he lived, and he was a great Buddhist monk and scholar. And from one of his disciples, Webu Ken, he obtained initiation originally, and later on he met Webu Sayādaw, and recognizing his great progress in meditation, he asked and suggested him to propagate, and he did a great service and propagation in Myanmar. And from him, S.M. Goenka was taught the Vipassanā meditation, and who later propagated in India and many other places. So obviously there is a very living and powerful lineage of teaching where they focus entirely on this breath, being focused on the in-breath and out-breath, and the spot where the breath touches on the upper lip. This is the only practice that is emphasized. And as part of this teaching, the paramitas, as they're called, paramitas, paramis, in Burmese they say parami, and paramita is a Sanskrit word. The 6 paramis are emphasized all the time. Means as long as you have good dana, sila, kshanti, means forbearance, and virya means effort and energy, and dhyana and prajna. So these are the things that are emphasized. Means one has to be perfect in these, especially if you see in Webu Sayādaw's teaching, he emphasized the paramis very much, and for the lay people and of course the monks, a lot of emphasis on the sila, and then forbearance, means you need to put up with the difficulties that come. Forbearance. And even in hard times, how do you not react to anybody giving you trouble, forbearance. And then virya, effort, continuous effort. These are three I noticed he emphasized a lot. And he emphasized, of course, concentration by saying, put entire 24 hours in meditation, that kind of thing. So these are the points I found in the book being repeated several times, just giving a hint and the importance of this. As I said, it's only to pick some of the sentences that he often used. Here, on page 11, even though you have a good quality seed, let's look at this conversation. How long does it take for a paddy seed to sprout? Devotee said, only overnight, sir. It takes only a day for it to sprout. Now, if you keep the seed, a good quality seed, of course, after sprouting, and do not plant it, will it grow? Sayadaw asked. The student said, "No sir, it won't." Then Sayadaw replied, "Even though you have a good quality seed, if you do not plant it, it will not grow. It is just the same thing with the teachings of Buddha. Only if you accept them will you understand them. Only when you accept them will you understand them. If you learn how to live with the awareness of mind and matter arising, what do you achieve?" The disciple, this awareness is called Vidya, sir. Vidya or Vidya in Sanskrit. Knowing, knowledge. Sayadaw, if one lives without the teachings of the Buddha, what do you call that? That is avidya, sir, ignorance. Sayadaw, if you live all your life with vidya, understanding of the Buddha Dhamma, then where will you go after death? To some good existence, sir, devotee said. Anyway, here I highlighted because there is always a confusion, even in my mind, how to clarify what is meant by accepting. We say that you hear the Buddha Dharma or any teaching and then you accept it. What is meant by accept it? So I found this explanation to be helpful, that accepting he is comparing with having a good seed and putting and planting it. Like a rice sapling. If you don't plant it, it's not going to give crop. Similarly, you know that there is a Buddha's teaching, maybe a Vipassanā, let us say, and you need to put it in within yourself. That is planting it. That is what he calls as accepting it. Practicing is accepting it. Then the result will come. And then this is what he calls simply Vijja. Nothing else. Means understanding of arising and perishing of the mind and matter continuously. Of course, though he uses the word billions of times in a split second. Billions of times in a split second. I think because of this, we have speculative comparisons with the chaotic theory and the atomic theory and subatomic theory. Nowadays, everybody is comparing them because here it says the mind and matter arises and subsides billions of times in a wink of an eye, like that. So, but however it is, mind and matter arising and subsiding is what we need to know. That's what is called Vidya or Vijja in Pali. Now, here on page 20, as the air streams in and out, we know its continuous flow and the continuous touch resulting from it. Don't follow the air to that side. That is what Sayadaw said. It's a very important thing. That's why I wanted to, because I had this particular point not being emphasized by many people. Whereas here, this is mentioned. It's very interesting. I'll explain to you why I found it important. What do you mean by that, sir? Sayadaw, don't let go of the sensation produced by the breath touching the skin. Remain with the awareness of touch. Don't follow the stream of air inside or outside. And why? If you do that, you won't be able to feel the touch sensation. So let's stay with awareness of the spot without a break. So I hope some of you who are listening to this will recognize the very, 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 very important point that Webu Sayādaw has mentioned here. Even from the Vedantic perspective, this is the approach. This is the understanding we have. As the air streams in and out, we know its continuous flow and the continuous touch resulting from it on the upper lip. Some spot, whatever comes to you. Don't follow the air to that side. Means to the inside or outside. Don't follow the air. Disciple, what do you mean by that, sir? Sayadaw, don't let go of the sensation produced by the breath touching the skin. Touching the skin. Remain with the awareness of touch. Don't follow the stream of air inside or outside. And why? If you do that, you won't be able to feel the touch sensation, because the awareness would have moved away from the spot into the places where the air is going in or how it is coming out. So the awareness of that spot is lost. That is an explanation he gives. So let's stay with awareness of the spot without a break. So this is how Webu Sayādaw brought this to our attention. But I would also add one other sentence, because if we are the awareness and we leave that fact away and try to become one with the movement of the air, our knowledge will be limited to the movement and not to the knower of the movement. So instead of that, if you stay with the spot, when there is no touch, you know there is no touch or a sense of touch. And when there is a spot, when that spot is being touched again by the cool air coming in or out, then we will be aware of that. But whether there is a sense of touch or not, our awareness would be present and you would be one with the awareness. So it is very important not to be traveling with the wind, but be a witness to the air or wind. It's just like saying, I sit inside my house and I am looking through the front door and the main gate, and a vendor of vegetables or fruits goes in front of my house. If I am turning my head all the time like this, looking for somebody who is going to come later, then I am not an observer. I am also party to the scene. But here, this one self of all is not a party to the stream. It is a witness, untouching witness. So, if I sit inside my house on a chair and not be bothered about who may come after a few minutes, but only I am seeing the vendor who passes in front of my eyes when he is crossing the door, and once he crosses the door and passes on the other side of the wall, I don't bother about him, then I am able to see whatever comes, but I am not one with what is coming. So I become truly a witness. So this very, very important point that Webu Sayādaw mentioned, which I don't see in many other places, people being able to say this. We should never travel with the inflow and outflow. Though initially it will happen, I too see that it becomes easy to at least center onto this witness state of Vipassanā or Samatha initially, because we are the beginners. But the idea is, when you are engaged, slowly you will disengage from that and be a witness of the in and out breaths, and also its touch on the spot on the upper lip. So which he emphasizes all the time, saying the mind and the matter, because the sense of touch is matter, whereas in the mind, which is knowing, is different from the matter. So ultimately you want to know that the mind and the matter both arise and subside. That's why this sentence was looked very important and interesting to me, that it is mentioned here. So I'm sure this is what is very unique about great teachers who have realized out of their extensive practice, which we cannot simply get by reading any simple textbook. Here on page 27, there is right conduct and there is understanding. Both are important. Right conduct is the fulfillment of your manifold duties and your giving of the 4 requisites for the support and furthering of Buddha's teaching. The control over your mind gives you understanding. There are these 2 elements of training, and you have to train yourselves in both simultaneously. It is not possible to be aware of the breath while you are preparing and giving the 4 requisites to the community of monks. So what he is trying to say is there are 4 requisites that the monks need. Means what are they? Clothing, shelter, food and medicine. So he is saying the lay disciples as the grahasthas who are not monks should support these monks by giving these 4 requisites. Obviously you have to do some work in preparing and giving this to the monks. But what he is saying is, even when you are engaged in doing actions for the monks, be within yourself. Be focused on the breath. Can you not do both? That you are cooking the meal that needs to be given to the monk, at the same time when you are cooking, you are aware of your own breath. He is saying these 2 are equally important, that you be aware of your breath even though you are engaged in action, which is a conduct or a charana, which is the sila part of it, the sila or action part of it, moral conduct. So he's saying action should go together, whether you are working outside or whether you are doing work for giving monks to help them, but be focused on your breath. He in fact says several places that your quality of work also will improve, etc. Here again on page 28, Sayadaw is saying, to fulfill our duties is part of moral conduct. He always emphasizes that you need to fulfill your duty to your parents, to your children, maybe your wife or husband, So you need to always take care of what needs to be done for them as part of your duty. In fact, this is what he emphasizes every time about sila. To fulfill our duties is part of the moral conduct. If you don't fulfill your duties, your conduct is not perfect. At the same time that you fulfill your duties, admonishing your children, for example, means guiding them, maybe if you need to punish them or direct them, for example, you can train yourself in the awareness of the spot. Isn't it wonderful? Now you have the time to train yourselves in both moral conduct and understanding. So he says, even though you are engaged in the household duties, you may be admonishing your children to do the right thing. If they are not studying, you want to make them study. If they are not behaving right, you want to enforce it on them. But he says, even during the time, you can still focus on your breath, because breath is always there. So isn't it wonderful that you are able to do your living in a moral conduct, abiding by the moral conduct of doing your duty to your teachers, to your elders, parents, grandparents. He emphasizes that way, wife and children and so on. And then still you can focus on the breath. Moving further. Now on page 30, Sayadaw. The wise people of old practiced the teachings without allowing their efforts to diminish in any of the 4 postures. The 4 postures I told you, sitting, standing, walking, lying down. So he is saying the wise people of old practiced the teachings without allowing their efforts to diminish in any of the 4 postures. Here the emphasis is on their effort without allowing their efforts to diminish. So the effort, the energy, the continuity of practice will never be broken. So you need to do that way. That is the emphasis here. In whatever state you may be, try to put the same. This is what is called virya. Of course, in the Pali, virya they say. Virya means energy, strength, force, like that. And they kept up such a perfect continuity of awareness that there never was any gap. You too have to practice it in this way. The disciples of the Buddha established awareness of the spot and then did not allow their minds to shift to another object. So the spot is the object of your awareness. The spot where the in-breath and out-breath touch the upper lip is the object of awareness. So if the object of awareness can be held there to be the same, and we don't switch to another object at any time, then the mind will not have any other thoughts coming in. So that is what is concentration. That is what is samadhi. Samadhi means concentration. In fact, I myself would say, unless we both thoroughly we equate these two words very clearly in our mind, samadhi will be a misleading word. Samadhi means the concentration. Means being concentrated on just one object of awareness. Even this is what is a nididhyasana as well. Nididhyasana. Sratavyo, mantavyo, nididhyasatavya. So nididhyasana is this focus on this one self. There, of course, Vedantic teaching is on the Vedantic self. So there the dhyasa will go on to the Vedantic self. Here in this training of samatha, the focus is to have one object of awareness. Here in this case, the in-breath and out-breath, and where in-breath and out-breath meet on the upper lip, the spot is the object of awareness. So he wants you to keep that as a preliminary, and slowly the same thing will mature, and concentration improves, and from there the prajna, or the awareness of the oneself of all, will dawn. That is how it is said. You are taking one technique and doing it rigorously, intensely, that ultimately that itself will lead to the ultimate understanding. So this is the practice here. You too have to practice in this way. The disciples of the Buddha established awareness of the spot and then did not allow their minds to shift to another object. Now, can the rains of greed, anger, and ignorance still affect those who are steadfast? He is asking, if you are steadfast, if one is steadfast, means firm in holding to this object of awareness, which is the spot on the upper lip area, where the in-breath and out-breath are touching, then if you are steadfast in having this object alone into your awareness, can there really any other thought of greed means trishna, means a desire. Of course, though this word trishna or desire or greed are used, it is applied in many other places, okay? Even a wish or preference, we say, preference means likes and dislikes. Everything comes under this greed. Greed means in excess basically. So liking of excess or wanting of excess, anything of that kind is greed. Greed and anger, because if the desire is not fulfilled, it manifests as anger. And then basically ignorance, and not knowing the truth is what is causing. If we know that there is really no individual self, who would give importance to the likes and dislikes? So that's how it is. So because of ignorance, we have increasing, and we catch on to or latch on to these desires, or rather even aversion or hatred. We hang on because we think there are individuals who are the karta or agents of that. But if the real knowledge comes, then the greed and lust and passion, all these are the synonyms in terms of our understanding of the first defect. Greed, lust, passion, likes and preferences, opinions, all of them are bundled together into greed. Second is anger, okay, rage or dissatisfaction or aversion. All of them come into this. Second thing, anger. And finally it is ignorance. So there is really no place. Ignorance is thinking that I am an individual exist. That itself is ignorance. So once the mind is engaged in this awareness of the object, which is the spot for the breath, then no other thoughts will ever come in. That's what he is saying here. Here again on page 32, Sayādaw, this frees us from the suffering in the round of rebirths. And having discovered this for ourselves, we need not ask others about it. If we establish strong and steadfast effort in accordance with our aspiration for awakening, is there still cause for doubt? Shall I get it or shall I not? Disciple, no sir, we have gone beyond doubt. Sayādaw. So, then you have full confidence in what you are doing, and due to your effort, the virya iddhipada factor arises. Virya iddhipada factor arises. Suppose people come and say to you, you haven't got the right thing yet. How could you ever succeed? Will doubt arise in you? He is asking. So here Sayādaw is emphasizing the direct experience, the knowledge gained out of direct experience. If one is focusing on this breath and they realize the calm and peace, then even if somebody comes and tells you that, by doing Vipassanā, you are not going to get anything, you will not follow their words, because you have a direct experience of peace and joy, and you find that during that minimal time that you experienced, itself you found that the mind was not harassing. So you have a direct experience of mind not causing you suffering. Suffering is eliminated. So he is simply emphasizing that if you follow this breath practice of Vipassanā and Samatha, automatically you have a direct experience of cessation of suffering by thoughts. So even if somebody tells you that this is not effective, you will be able to say, I know that it is effective. So, and he says, he uses the word, when you practice even for some time, he says automatically there will be a mechanism called virya iddhipada. The Sanskrit words are virya siddhipada. Virya siddhipada. Virya siddhipada means the siddhi attained out of virya or energy. Okay, that state you will come, that state you will get. So you don't need to really put that same amount of high energy all the time, because there is an automatic mechanism which takes over and it is able to continue the force forward. Here one interesting definition of what is the siddhipada or iddhipada is saying, the root or basis of attaining completion or perfection. Iddhipada is siddhipada, he says, the root or the mula or the foundation or the deeper state or the deeper state. Okay, the root or basis of attaining completion or perfection. So you reach the foundation from which one is sure to gain the fruition, come to the fruition. That foundation we have touched. We are not in the shallow state anymore. That state is called iddhipada, he says, siddhipada in Sanskrit. Virya meaning effort. This is a very interesting definition. A person with virya is infused with the thought that the aim can be attained by energy and effort. A person with virya is infused with the thought that the aim can be attained by energy and effort. He is not discouraged even though it is said to him that he must undergo great hardships. A person is not discouraged here when he is simply told, he is not discouraged even though it is said to him, it is only being told to him at this point, said to him that he must undergo great hardships. So he is not discouraged by others saying that. Next, he is not discouraged even though he actually has to undergo great hardships. He is not discouraged while undergoing hardships. Earlier it said when he hears others telling him that there are difficulties in this path, that time he is not discouraged. And then after that he embarks on the path and he encounters the difficulties on his own experience. But still he is not discouraged. This is also because he has attained the iddhipada. And the third, he is not discouraged even though it is said to him that he must put forth effort for many days, months and years. And if somebody comes and tells him, man, you have been doing this work for a month, this has to continue for several months, several years, for lifetimes you have to do this effort. He is not discouraged. And then the fourth point, he is not discouraged even though he actually has to put forth effort for such long periods. So even after crossing the three hurdles of being told first that it is requires a lot of energy. Then he is facing hardships while putting. Third, somebody says it is going to take a very long time. He is not discouraged. He is not even discouraged even though he is putting effort for a very long time. Bhagavan Sri Krishna also says the same thing in the Gita. You have to put in achirena gacchati. He does not say within how long time. Not very long. Nachirena adhigacchati. Chira means a long time. Na chirena, not very long. Not very long. Okay, you will attain. So it is going to attain, but don't we think, na chirena adhigacchati. It's not good, not very long. You will get it. Maybe it's after several births, but you will get it like that. So these four things are very interesting. So one should not be discouraged if somebody tells you it's going to take a lot of effort. One should not be discouraged and give up, even though he is undergoing hardship while doing. Third, if somebody tells you it's going to take a very long time, then you are not discouraged. Then even though when you are doing, if it is taking too long, you should not be discouraged. All this strength comes in when the Virya Siddhipada factor arises. So initially we need to strive and struggle. Prayatna is required. So this is a very interesting thing. We will continue. Om Shanti. Shanti.